All right. So at the end of the previous season, when they lost 101 games, people asked me, okay, what's going to happen next year? And I would say it's not going to get any worse. It can't. And sure enough, it did. But as someone, and it's funny how all these memories are now coming back to me. I guess the surgery didn't work. As someone who watched every single game last year, I can tell you it will not be worse.
Here we go. All right, let's get all the funny business out of the way here first, because then we're gonna try and get serious for like 5-10 minutes with Chuck Garfien, our friend from the Chicago Sports Network. Chuck, great to see you. How are you? Do you have a prop for AJ?
I do.
One of few copies left in the world of the Hawkaroo.
I'm transfixed by this. I cannot stop reading about Hawk Harrelson. Right now, I'm at the point where he's talking about how he arm wrestled a guy who was 6'9" and beat him. It was in Brunswick, New Jersey.
Yep. Real life Forrest Gump.
Look at this man.
That's what Scott looks like in the off season.
Scott Pasenik used to talk about that book, and he said Konerko would pull the book out in a rain delay, and he would read from it. Is that true? He would read just like an outlandish story from the book.
Oh yeah. He would just open it to any page. It was like the Bible. Yep. You can open it to any page and find a great story. Now, were they all true? I don't really know, but they were made for a great book. And listen, someone that's known Hawk since he was in high school, and he still lives around the corner from me, I can't argue with him. But he also dressed great, smelled great, and, did a lot. He
was revolutionary.
Did a lot of cool things.
How many players do you know put their nickname on the back of their jersey? Just says Hawk.
That is cool. He is the definition of a Renaissance man to me. Yeah, he's got the Forrest Gump story. You're right. Okay.
Wait, Chuck, I got to ask, before we dig in here, I do have to ask, are you with the Chicago Sports Network?
I am.
Oh, I didn't know if you and Ozzy automatically got transferred over, because I will admit this, and I talked about this weekend with Scott and the people we went out to dinner Friday night, Mark, and I said, I don't care how the White Sox do, but watching you and Ozzy after they lose every game is must-watch TV. I would stay up and watch it just so I could see what kind of antics that you and Ozzy would pull off. And you, your hair looks great because it was gray, so the offseason has done you well, Chuck. So it's getting ready to start up here in a couple weeks. But I'm just saying, like, your antics with you and Ozzy. Now, when, Frank would be on, he wouldn't get into as much. I love pods, but, Ozzy's just a different level of ridiculousness. So between the two of you guys, watching you guys every night was worth it.
Yeah, we had a great season for the show. Unfortunately, it was the worst season in modern baseball history. I did have a procedure in the offseason. I removed every single brain cell in my brain from what happened last season. So if you ask me anything about the 121 losses, I have magically forgotten them all. Actually,
you got the Men in Black, that little clicker that they used in Men in Black. Yeah, kids, look it up. It's the little clicker. It just makes you forget everything, and they just put the time period in. Okay, so we're going to relive some of that magic and re-educate you. So let's hit the 2025 storylines for the White Sox. Homework is 4 storylines. Number 1, it can't get worse, ? Right? So we'll go over what 2025 looks like, and if there's going to be a Luis Robert audition and then trade around the deadline. What about the 5-year plan and some of the prospects like Colson Montgomery, Noah Schultz, and new addition Kyle Teal, and then the veteran Mercenaries that were signed this offseason like Josh Rojas, Mike Tauchman, and Martin Perez. So I'll go first. Nice and simple, Chuck. They were really bad last year, worst team, just to re-educate you, of all time in terms of the record. They traded away their ace, Garrett Crochet. Is it possible that they could be worse in 2025?
All right. So at the end of the previous season, when they lost 101 games, people asked me, okay, what's going to happen next year? And I would say it's not going to get any worse. It can't. And sure enough, it did. But as someone, and it's funny how all these memories are now coming back to me. I guess the surgery didn't work. As someone who watched every single game last year, I can tell you it will not be worse. And there are many reasons why. And, they get rid of Crochet, and you think, how can they be better without Garrett Crochet? Well, you look into it. All right. The second half of the season, the White Sox were limiting his innings. He was going 3 innings, 4 innings at a time or less. And when you do that, that means you have to use your bullpen for the final 5-6 innings every time that Garrett Crochet pitched. That's not good for your bullpen that day or the next day. So even though it was great to have Garrett Crochet on your team in the second half, he went 0-6, and they were not really in a position to succeed in those starts the entire second half of the season. And what were they doing? They're trying to market him so they'd be able to trade him. And I think that was a good trade for the White Sox. They lost 51 games by 2 runs or less. They were in a lot of games with the worst offense I've ever seen, certainly with the White Sox, and a bullpen that really struggled and was gassed and using a lot of young guys. This was not a team that was just absolutely defeated. They did all they could, but it was one of these perfect storms or imperfect storms where everything went against them. They're not going to lose 121 games. You heard it right here. I'm saying it on camera to the world. And if they lose 121 games or more, you can play this from here to eternity, and I will eat my words.
Chuck Garfinkel, always the forever optimist with the White Sox. But let me ask you this, and this same topic. You're not really an ask. They could lose 110 games, and they're still 11 games better. So everyone's going to be like, man, what an improvement. We only lost 110 games. So the better question is, how big of an improvement is the jump? But we're going to get to that, okay? Because that's the 5-year plan thing. But I want to know about Lou Bob. Luis Robert Jr. has all the ability in the world. 2 years ago was incredible. Last year, banged up. Never really got going. Had an awful year. There was a lot of things that happened with him. Can he bounce back, and can he get shipped to a contender possibly in the middle of the season and get back more prospects for this 5-year plan that Chris Getz in the front office has?
I don't know if it's 5 years. Are you putting 5 years on this?
It's always 5-year plan. It's a 5-year plan. It's a 5-year plan. We're in the 7th rebuild in the last 6 years, Chuck. What do you want from me?
All right. So to answer your question about Luis Robert Jr., can he become the player he was? 100% yes. Will he? I can't answer that. He had a 130 OPS plus in 2023. It went down to 87. Your best player, here's another reason why you lose 121 games. When your best player, first off, loses, I don't know, he was missed most of the first half with an injury and then comes back and is a subpar player. He had an 87 OPS plus batting first, second, and third. And you're going through that lineup time and time and time again, and you're not getting the kind of production that you need in OBP under 300. You're going to lose a lot of games. And so I really hope he can turn it around. He certainly can. And if he does, yeah, there'll be teams that'll be interested. Are there teams interested now? At the deadline, winter meetings, Chris Getz said there were teams interested. I'm sure there are teams interested in him, but will they give the White Sox what they feel like they need for him? If he has a comeback first half of the season, then yeah, he will be traded. I'm putting it 50-50. How can you say you can rely on Luis Robert Jr. to have a comeback season or have the year that we hope that he can do when he hasn't consistently shown it, either with his results on the field or staying healthy? It's a mixed bag. I'd love to see it. I know it's all in there. He's by far their best player, and they keep him and they don't trade him before opening day, and he has a big first half, which I know he can do. They'll get a lot for him.
We saw your soul get hurt a little bit when AJ said the 5-year plan. You're like, 5 years. We still got 4 more. I still got to deal with this, but it is going to be year 2 already. Okay, Chuck? Like year 2 of this in the tanking program, tanking formula. What do we need to track? What do we need to follow with Colson Montgomery, with Noah Schultz, with Kyle Teal? What can we expect as White Sox fans that we are here at FT?
Well, fortunately, I do have experience covering a White Sox rebuild. I covered the last one. And I saw how that actually quickly turned around. The rebuild started in 2016, and by, well, actually really even more, it was the 2017 season. And then that's really when but it didn't fully go through until 2018. And in 2019, you're like, okay, we see where this is going. In 2020, they were a really good team. Unfortunately, it was the pandemic. They didn't make it into the postseason. What I'm looking for this year is not so much wins. You want to see the wins, but you want to see the guys who are a part of their future having good seasons. And you're going to see 6 or 7 of the Sox top prospects be called up to the major leagues. I believe many, if not all of them, will be up here. And so for Sox fans, you're going to see the future on the field, and we'll see how they do. But I think that's really what you have to look at. How many years is it going to take? I don't know. The payroll is really, really low by design. And I'd like to think once they know what they have, who they have, and when they know what they don't have, they'll go out and spend the money. But you don't do it right now because you're still trying to figure that out, what prospects are going to be big. And Colson Montgomery, Noah Schultz, Kyle Teal, Hagen Smith, etc. They're going to be on the major league team this year, and I'm excited to watch them.
Chuck, this leads into the last storyline, veteran mercenaries that we're calling it. Mike Tauchman, Martin Perez, who I love, he's an ex-teammate of mine, Josh Rojas. Some of these, Austin Hayes. No, not Austin Hayes.
Slater.
Sorry. Austin Slater. Austin Hayes signed today, so you got me off. Austin Slater. Why go sign these guys? Other than trade pieces, like what does it mean for them? Because why not have Colson Montgomery play every day? Why not, Braden Montgomery's obviously a little bit younger, but why not have Kyle Teal and Corey Lee be your catchers? Why not let another starting pitcher instead of Martin Perez? I know you need some veteran guys around, but what is the White Sox plan for these veteran guys? Is it to have them play, see how they do, and then possibly trade them and get more pieces, and then have the young guys come up? Or are they really counting on these guys to lead them to a better season, which, again, in the history of baseball, there's never been a worse season, so they got to be better?
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is almost everything that you just said, which is they bring these guys in to help, solidify the team, bring some veterans into this situation. And other than the catcher situation, I could see why, why don't you have Kyle Teal, give him a runway to maybe make the team out of spring training. I just think like what they're having behind the plate works for now, but they want to just make sure Kyle Teal and Edgar Caro are ready. And I think you'll see them in the major leagues at some point, but they didn't want to just rely on all their prospects right out of the gate when you're not 100% sure if they'll be ready. Mike Tauchman, here's what I see with a lot of guys they brought in. Veteran leadership, defense. Martin Perez, one of the best defensive pitchers in the game. OBP, a lot of like Tauchman, Slater. And I think what they're doing, they're putting some Band-Aids certainly on this team for the first half. So it gives them a chance to win games. So you're not just relying totally on prospects. I think there's a good balance here. And if they have good first halves, then they're traded. They get some more prospects. These are one-year deals. Their payroll is $66 million, something like that. So, I mean, if you didn't even use these guys, their payroll would be $60 million. I see nothing wrong with these one-year deals, these mercenaries. I think they need some mercenaries on this roster, and I don't have a problem with what they're doing so far.
I'm actually going to take the other side of what AJ's talking about and say, why didn't they do more of this in the offseason? There are rules to curb how you can rebuild these days, right? The White Sox should have the #1 pick coming up. What pick do they have?
Oh, you're talking about next season. Yeah, 10.
They have 10 because you can't do that if you're a team like them in a bigger market. You get punished for being bad in consecutive seasons. So my case here is very simple because it's a team in the league that did this. How come the White Sox are at 66 mil or whatever and not at least closer to 100 plus, which they can easily handle so that they can do a signing like Aroldis Chapman from a couple years ago, which the Royals did for like 10-ish million bucks and turned him into Cole Reagans. It is much harder to rebuild now. So why didn't we see them involved for some of these one-year contracts? This is where they can play catch up so much quicker. They could have done 3 or 4 of these in like the $5 to $15 million range on these one-year contracts, especially pitching, right? You can never have enough pitching. Get a few good starters, get a reliever or two, and then flip them at the deadline.
Good question. I don't have the answer to that one. You're right. That's another way they could have gone about doing it, spending more money. What's crazy and what might have something to do with why they did this is just me theorizing this. Who had the highest payroll in the American League Central last year? and if not first, they were definitely right behind the first place team, the White Sox. So they had $127 million payroll, and they had the worst record not only in baseball but in modern baseball history. That's not going to look good on the bottom line, and they clearly are not trying to win the division this year. So the way they're going about doing it, let's give a lot of opportunities to the young guys, and let's surround them with one-year guys who can help mold them, and these guys can have comeback seasons. And I think there's a lot of guys who, like, Austin Slater, Mike Tauchman actually had a pretty good year with the Cubs. I was surprised he was available, but I understand why he was available. I just think that this was what they decided to do, the route they decided to take. But I see it from both sides.
Okay.
Gosh, you're such the optimist. You are just, you know what you are? You're a fan at Sox Fest this past weekend, Chuck. You were a fan sitting there in the middle of the Sox Fest cheering on everybody, weren't you?
Oh, were you talking to me? I'm sorry, AJ. I was reading the Hawk book. I am. You know what I am? I'm an optimist / realist. I'm not a pessimist.
I'm not a pessimist either. I want them to do good. I want the White Sox to do well. Are they going to be good this year, though? I'm a realist. No, they're going to stink.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying they're going to be good. I think the goal for this team should be, okay, let's try to lose less than 100 games. I mean, that would be a humongous improvement.
That would be a huge jump. That'd be the biggest jump of any team in baseball. If they didn't lose 100 games.
I do think it's possible, because watching how this team lost so many games, how they happened. Last year's team was a 100 loss team. I mean, in theory, they should have lost anywhere between 100 and 110. There is no reason why they lost. They should have lost 121, and yet it happened. So I think just like I mentioned, all the craziness. I haven't even gotten into all the craziness. I mean, they lost 23 games when leading after 6. I mean, they were in position to win so many games. And if it wasn't the bullpen blowing it, it was the offense. It was craziness that was happening. They just had seemingly everything against them. I am not making excuses for them. I'm just saying how it transpired. This team can lose 99 games. I hope it's something in the double digits, not triple digits. But I would not be shocked if it was over 100, because there's just a lot of guys you're relying on who, are coming up to the major leagues. They're trying to find themselves. But I see two different scenarios. I see them losing between 100 and 110, and I see them losing between 90 and 100.
Best way to go from bad to really freaking bad is to not have much of a bullpen. Could have signed some veteran relievers to flip at the deadline. So we'll see what happens. But anyway,
maybe they want to see what they've got. Maybe there are some relievers who they feel good about. I clearly they do. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But I think maybe that's coming.
Their bullpen didn't get better. Their bullpen didn't get better from last year. I'm just saying it didn't get improved that much. As you know,
yes. I don't know who's closing.
I'm looking at the names. I mean, I'm just saying. A lot of these guys were there last year, and it wasn't very good.
A lot of competition in camp. A lot of competition.
Great. That's it. A lot of competition. Mm-hmm. They want to see what they have in the bullpen, but they don't want to see what they have in position players.
Yeah. If you're an indie ball pitcher and you think you've got it, just show up to Glendale, Arizona, and see what happens. Okay.
That's why he's our Chuck.
Besides that,
right
yeah,
there.
Chuck, you've been a great sport. Chuck, we got to remember these times. So in a few years, you can come back and be like, hey, remember when you just picked on me? And now, Ozzy and I can actually have a good time here on the post-game show.
Yeah, but what's funny is that when they went through the last rebuild, what did they spend a lot of money on? And didn't work?
Bullpen.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I see, you could spend a whole lot of money on the bullpen. Hey, look at this guy was great last year. Oh, no, it's 2025. We got this crappy version of him. No, let's go with an unproven guy. Maybe he's got something that we can use that's cheaper. He's already in our system. We know him more than this guy who is playing for Texas or Atlanta, whoever it might be. So I know you want some definitive hot takes from me, but I am blending optimism and realism with you. That's what you're going to get. And you're going to get stories upon stories.
And brevity.
Chuck, listen, we don't want hot takes from you. We want realism. And you give it to us. That's why you're our Chuck. And Kratz said it best. He wants him to lose a lot of games just so he can witness the drama with you and Ozzy. That's it.
Theater.
That's really it. I didn't say that. Kratz said it. I didn't say that. I want him to win every game. I want him to go 162-0.
Well, it is true that many of our best post-game shows do come after losses, but I do not want that. I want as many wins as humanly possible for the White Sox. I'd rather talk about a win than a loss. The easiest thing to do on a post-game show is talk about a game that ended in a win. Losses are tough, but I've got Ozzy there, and we have a good time doing it. We never make it personal, ever. We just tell it like it is. Tell you what just happened and why it happened. And
we'll be watching. Yes, we will be watching. Don't worry. And we'll be talking about it here. Chuck, thank you. Good to see you.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.